Hey there, emerging expat! You're tuned in to Let's Move to Portugal. I'm Victoria from Expats Everywhere's podcast, and I have the distinct honor of bringing you, YouTube travelers, and our resident of Portugal experts, Expats Everywhere's Josh and Kaylee. Each week they'll inspire, they'll educate, and they'll accompany you on your journey to Portuguese residency. This week on Let's Move to Portugal, Josh and Kaylee explore the vibrant contrast between Istanbul and Portugal, from culinary delights to cultural nuances. Tune in to catch their insights.
Hey expats and travelers, welcome back to Expats Everywhere Presents Let's Move to Portugal podcast. Kaylee, how you doing?
I'm doing really well. We just went to the World Cheese Awards in Viseu, which was really cool. So lots of cheese, lots of fun. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Listener, we are going to jump straight into this episode that is a little less about Portugal and a little more about Turkey. Now, the reason we like to do this and take you along our travels with us is because when you're living in a place like Portugal, which is in a really good spot in Europe with nice connectivity to other parts of the world, you have the ability to travel and see different places. And we got to go to another country. I won't say a new country. It's probably our fourth visit now to Istanbul itself. We've been to other places in Turkey as well. So we're going to kind of unpack that, try to make some comparisons between Portugal and I guess really what we've seen over the past couple of years, because this trip was a bit different and we were a bit shocked by a few things, namely pricing.
Yeah, we'll get to that. I think that's something that you always have your pulse on, like kind of always knowing what prices are like. I'm just like, especially if it's in a different currency, I'm like, how much is that again? How much is that? So I don't, which is why I have Josh pay a lot for things, because it's like if I have to figure that out, I don't do it enough when we travel. Like if we're in a place for a couple of days, I don't do it enough on a daily basis to really remember like what the conversion is. So I'm like, okay, Josh, you pay. It's much easier. But yeah, before we get to
And well, I was just going to say, and you're like your father in that any foreign currency besides USD and now Euro to some extent is monopoly money.
Well, no.
Is monopoly money.
I mean, when I use it more like pounds and stuff, but nowadays you don't even need to have actual cash on you. Everything is with the card. So even I get stuck like when we go to the store here, I don't look at prices. I don't even, it's bad. I don't even look at like when they say the total. Okay. So I hear it, but I'm just like tap, like, okay, I don't.
Much to my chagrin.
Yeah.
Well, Wise, we use our Wise cards, and Wise comes in real handy when you, at least they're in a country where Wise has that currency.
Which I think they have a lot.
Turkish lira, so Turkish lira, we were able to put money into the Wise account, and you're kind of seeing the conversion that you're doing.
That's true.
So that's nice.
Yeah, that does help. But still, even so, Josh and I each have our own Wise cards, and mine's a bit more of like an emergency in case I need it. So I didn't actually use it much on this trip. Every once in a while.
I have it connected to my phone, so I'm usually not even getting the physical card out, but just tapping.
You're loving that lately. Loving just using your, what is it, Apple Wallet or just whatever you just your phone.
Yeah, I mean it's in the Apple Wallet. So, you know, you double click, scan the face, tap the card. Really, it's just like
technology.
Just like waving it. You don't even have to get it that close.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so you want to talk about prices now or you want to get to that in a little bit?
We'll get into it.
So one thing that I do like, you were talking about how like when you live in Portugal, it's easy to travel around to different places. And one thing that I think that is really good is the fact that Porto has a direct flight from Porto to Istanbul, which is great. So I assume Lisbon does as well. But it's like 4.5 hours from Porto to Istanbul. So it's very easy to get there. So trying out a new place, because then obviously you're half in Europe, half in Asia once you get to Istanbul because of the river.
Well, yeah, I mean, in fact, it's why we decided to travel to or through Istanbul. We were on our way to Kuala Lumpur for Nomad Capitalist Live, and we were checking flights, and on Skyscanner, the cheapest flight was a Turkish Airways flight, and we were like, all right, well, we could get halfway to Southeast Asia, stop, and then obviously take the longer flight then from Istanbul to Kuala Lumpur. Mm-hmm. And then we thought on the way back, wouldn't it be nice if we could just book like a 48-hour or 3 day layover? It was the same price. Maybe actually it was marginally cheaper. And we did that.
So we could stop over because it was Sia's
New
first
country
time in
for
Turkey.
Sia.
Yeah. So like Josh had said, we have been there several times. So that wasn't, a thing that we had to do, like the touristy things and stuff. So we were really interested in kind of soaking up the culture, because obviously when we take Sia to a place, it's a little harder to do some of these touristy things. She's not as interested in museums and maybe churches or mosques or pretty buildings.
Yeah.
She's more interested in like playgrounds and food. So we're like, okay, since we've been to Istanbul several times, obviously when she's older, she'll circle back to it, but we can go ahead and just really take in the food culture. So we focused on that a lot more on this trip.
Yeah. And if you're brand new, Valencia or Sia is our 4-year-old daughter, soon to be 5-year-old daughter. So, I mean, it could be like a pet, but
a playground and food.
Yeah.
Dog run
park
and food. Yeah. So I would say one thing that I was really looking forward to was the food when we got there.
Yes.
And it did not disappoint.
What? The brunches or breakfasts were
good.
Unreal.
Just breads and cheeses and spreads and oh gosh, like it's so good. We have this amazing picture. We did this one where it was like this massive platter with lots of different bowls and plates that came out, and you just kind of picked at every little thing. That one was good.
Yeah, the visual presentation on those were really nice. Now, Turkey, well, I mean, sliding into price a little bit, Turkey is not as cheap as it used to be.
No, that was kind of crazy.
So the first time we visited, I'm trying to think of the year, maybe 2016, 2017. It was cheap. Like it was cheap by certainly North American standards, like cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's, depending on where you are, it could almost be the same as like if you're in a mid-major city in the US. I mean, it's not going to be like San Francisco, LA, New York prices that high, but prices for food at least have risen in so much because of their hyperinflation that a lot of places don't publish or don't print menus with
prices because they have to change it so often.
Yeah.
Well, because the lira has had issues, especially the past couple of years, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. Okay. I mean, it's caused a lot of issues with it's the currency fluctuation. So it has fallen towards the dollar and the euro. And when they're buying things, mainly commodities are bought in USD. So they have issues with that, right?
Yeah.
They're buying things in USD, but their currency continues to fall towards USD. So then the price, the number of lira it takes to buy that good once it hits Turkey is significantly higher.
Right. So that was definitely a surprise.
We know a little more about this because we used to be invested in a small import-export coffee business out of Istanbul. And we suffered a lot of issues with the hyperinflation and then also COVID basically shut the business down.
Yeah, but now there were a lot more like specialty coffee shops, or at least places that were brewing specialty coffee. There were a lot more. So that was a nice change too, getting the different styles of coffee. Because I mean, obviously,
I think tourism drives that as well.
Yeah.
I definitely think tourism drives that. So post-pandemic, there have been a lot more visitors. I mean, Turkey's made a massive push. Excuse me. Turkey's made a massive push for tourism in the country, and therefore, you have people, maybe more affluent people, willing to pay $3, $4, $5 a cup versus, buying something that's more commercial grade coffee. But I mean, this kind of permeates all sorts of aspects of life.
Right. So, I mean, I was interested in seeing that there was more like specialty coffee, but also in Istanbul, especially, I don't drink much tea, but definitely there I do, because tea comes with everything,
Turkish tea.
Yeah, the Turkish tea is really good. That's still pretty cheap.
Yes, absolutely.
So, but you see kind of the way that you would in Portugal, you would see like someone just stop somewhere and grab like a quick little espresso. You see that, but for tea in Istanbul and in Turkey in general.
Yeah, I don't find it very fast though, because it stays so hot.
But the espressos here are pretty hot too. So sometimes I wonder how in the world does someone order an espresso and it literally comes out of the machine and then they just go ahead and down it. And I'm like, oh, isn't that so hot? Okay, so you have to take a little more time with the tea. Yeah. But that kind of culture aspect is really similar in the sense like you just stop for a quick coffee here. You stop for a quick tea there.
Yeah. I mean,
similarity.
I imagine people have like half a dozen teas a day.
It's a lot of
For
tea.
real.
It is a lot of tea.
For real.
But it tastes good. It does taste good. So I was drinking a lot more tea there. Well, actually, it was almost like this battle I had because it was like, okay, they have a lot of tea. And I went in thinking I'm going to be drinking a lot more tea, which is fine, something to do for a few days.
Yeah.
But then they actually had a lot of good styles of coffee to try too. So we were just kind of really jazzed up on coffee and tea the whole time, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You sound like you're still bouncing from it.
I am drinking coffee right now, but
Okay, so just to give you a little more concrete idea of pricing, the big brunch platters, spreads that we had, those ended up working out to be about 12 to 15 a person. And, we actually swung into a small cafe, and it is a specialty coffee cafe that had some pastries and coffees as well. And to be fair, like that was only marginally cheaper. It was maybe like 8 to 10 per person
for far less
each
food.
of us, for far less food.
Far less
Basically
food.
for a cup of coffee and a pastry.
Are you giving it in dollars or US? I mean, in euro or
in dollars?
In dollars, yeah.
I mean, dollar and euro is almost
similar right
almost
now.
on parity right now.
Yeah, they're
On par. So, what else? Alcohol, beer, definitely more expensive than Portugal. And even for like the Turkish stuff. So like here you can get a super bock for some places still under €1. But then other places maybe as high as €5 for a
super
draft.
bock?
Hold on, for a draft beer Kaneka, which is a half liter.
Yeah.
So maybe in some of the more touristy areas.
Yeah.
I don't think it's high. I mean, no, it's high.
Yeah.
But it's not incorrect for me to say that.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go to some real touristy spots, they might ask $6.50, but don't pay that.
No. For a
Go.
Superbock?
No.
No.
I mean, in general, you're going to pay for an import beer. You're going to pay that price. For a craft beer, you're going to pay that price.
Yeah.
In Turkey, however, the imports started more or less at $6.50, and then rose from there.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. So in that regard, it's a little pricier than Portugal is. Housing, on the other hand, as we were looking around, was cheaper. And with housing being the most expensive thing that one generally has to pay for,
biggest thing in their budget.
Yeah, the biggest line item. It seemed like Turkey was doing a little better.
A little better there, yeah.
Yeah. Not as much demand.
So also too, I think that would depend on where you live, because what's nice about Istanbul is the river separates it. So one side is Europe and one side is Asia, and they have different feels. So if you've never been, we definitely recommend a visit, and you have to go to both sides, and you can take a ferry across the river, which is nice, to get a feel for like the European side and the Asian side, because they are different and they have different things to check out. So on this trip, we didn't do that, again, just because with Sia, we didn't think she was interested in going to the Asian side. So we stayed on the European side and mainly made it a lot more about food. But if you do go and you've never been, you definitely have to do both sides.
Yeah.
And so that could also, I think, in general, the Asian side, since we didn't go this time, it was harder to compare. But every other time we've been, the Asian side's been a little cheaper.
Yeah.
For price stuff than the European side.
Yeah, the European side, I think most people land and stay there, right? I mean, when I say land, I mean like that's where they end up getting their hotel
or something, and then they just do a day over or something.
Yeah, they'll catch the water ferry over.
Although there are hotels on the other side,
for sure.
So you could, but I think overall it is cheaper on that side.
Yeah. Okay, so another big thing that people are going to Turkey for at the moment would be medical tourism.
Oh, yes. That's actually really big.
Hair transplants and teeth
are the two big things.
You can definitely tell when someone gets the hair transplant done because their head's all bandaged up.
Well, or you see like those little like little red dots. Like we saw loads of guys with this, and it's almost like a thing. Like it's not.
It's not. There's no
embarrassment. No trying to cover it up. You probably aren't allowed to wear a hat or something. So there's really not much that you can cover. But lots of people on the airplane as well, and then just walking around that had like a. Yeah, you can tell it's got this little like pricks, I guess.
It's temporary. It's like I'm never going to see these people again.
Yeah, that's true. So a lot, I guess I don't think women do anything. Well, I guess women can, but mainly you see the hair transplants for the guys.
I'm sure that there
Women.
are some other cosmetic surgeries that are popular in Turkey.
For women. Yeah,
For
we
women,
just mainly
yeah.
notice, I guess, the hair and the
the
teeth. You got okay. I think it's cheap, but you got to find a good
You got to get it sized right.
A good
Otherwise you're gonna look like a horse.
a good
coming out of
dentist.
there.
Yeah, some people, I think the teeth don't come out looking as good.
No,
So
and they're too white.
I don't know. Is
they
that
look
worth the price
fake.
if it's too crazy looking? I don't know.
Well, maybe over time, the teeth get naturally stained to where it doesn't look like you've just come out of, I don't know, like
Ross from Friends when he
Ross
whitens
from
his
Friends.
teeth, though. If
Yeah.
you like Friends and you know the episode with Ross where
It's
he
a
whitens
mess.
his teeth and there's a black light involved and right. So I guess what you have to do is get back to Portugal and start drinking your red wine and coffee.
Yeah, exactly.
to make it
To
a little
balance
more
it out.
normal looking.
One thing I did want to mention is, like, since we're talking about medical, is we did sign up for Safety Wing, and we've talked about Safety Wing on a couple of videos, and I think we're going to keep talking about it because we really liked the platform to sign up and then also the price.
Yeah.
So we ended up booking for the 2-week trip that we had. We ended up buying an insurance to cover us for the 2 weeks. And it was really easy to do. We just input the names of the countries that we were going to be in, and we got a quote, and it was very good. It was for three of us.
Actually.
It was like $86, which is like the
It was
cheapest
so
I've ever
cheap.
seen insurance quoted to us. And going to Singapore and knowing what those medical costs could be, I mean, we've actually seen some insurances priced out at like almost USD, like American prices when you're going to Singapore.
Yeah.
Right.
It
like,
could be, yeah.
You know, there's a premium. Let's say if you're traveling to the US and you need to get
always more
insurance, it's always
but
more.
You should always get it. We'll talk about that in a sec.
Yeah. No. So go ahead. I mean,
so for us, we have always we've been living outside of the U.S. since 2009. And when we go back, we get short-term insurance when we go back to the U.S. to visit because we don't have anything there, of course, because we haven't been living there for so long. But if you need medical in the U.S., it could sink you if something big emergency happens. So it's totally worth whatever that cost might be to just be covered for peace of mind. And actually last time we were there, you ended up using it. Yep. Josh had this like niggly little cold that wouldn't go away. And after a while we were going to cruise back. So it's like, just you need to go to the doctor and get something to knock this out so that you're not miserable on the cruise. Yes. It just would not go away.
Yeah.
So honestly, like I always recommend to people that when you go back to the States to visit, to get some sort of like short-term travel insurance. And Safety Wing, has just been the cheapest that we've ever seen when we do that. Because like you said, some places can be pretty high and some insurances, especially travel or, the more robust type insurances can be pretty expensive when you do travel. But Safety Wing was shockingly cheap. And SIA actually was included, but technically free for like a minor, right?
Yeah, like adding her didn't change the quote that we received.
Right.
Yeah.
But she was included in it if she needs to go to the doctor, which is also good too. Peace of mind if you have kids that you don't want to be like, oh my gosh, how much is this going to cost? Just to take my kid to a doctor in a foreign place. So
well, and the last thing I want to say on it is the amount of coverage that we got. Now, granted, we didn't actually have to use it per se, but the amount of coverage that we got that was within like the fine print, we knew based on the countries we were going to that it would certainly cover us.
Yep.
Yeah, like you don't need millions of dollars of coverage.
No. So, I mean, maybe for the U.S. you might, depending on. Yeah,
I'm saying
for where we were going. Yeah, where we were going, definitely. So it was, and it's so easy to get.
Yeah,
they've got a fun little website.
So we liked it so much that we became like affiliates. So we have a link if you want to use it. If you use it and purchase something, we might get a little cut of it, but we would still tell you about it anyways because we use it and we like it. So
there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things we talk about that we have no affiliation with them, but like obviously if we like it on a personal level, then we're going to tell you about it. So.
Yeah, it's like my shout out to Wise earlier. Like we use Wise. Wise actually helped us out yesterday. I can tell that story if people want to know, but it's not about Turkey.
That's about Sweden. An upcoming trip to Sweden.
Yes. Okay. So getting back more into kind of what Turkey was like, let's talk a little bit about the kind of sociocultural relationships things going on, right? I felt like this go around, it wasn't as hectic as it was before. I've actually seen a few YouTubers talk about this recently. Shout out Amelia JP. They were in Turkey maybe a year ago now, but they've been talking about this where they've been hit with the Istanbul scams.
Oh yes.
I think JP calls it Istanbul. So, which I thought was hilarious. It is a good one. It was pretty funny. Okay. So we've actually noticed some of these scams with our own eyes. It's happened to our friends. Certainly the shoe shine scam. That's probably the biggest, most used scam that I see anyways. And then there's the taxi scam.
Oh geez. Yeah.
Anyways, we didn't have any of that in the 2 days that we were there. We saw none of that.
I did see a couple guys walking around with the shoe bucket, but
you didn't.
Yeah, I didn't actually see them try to pull the scam.
Oh, okay. Here is one that they tried on us. I forgot about this. I don't know if it's necessarily a scam, but it's the ice cream scam.
Oh yeah, it's a kitschy little touristy thing, I guess.
So essentially,
we only did it because of Sia.
You've probably seen this on Instagram, if you're on Instagram, where someone is getting Turkish ice cream. They've got that big drum and the big paddle, and they're like dipping stirring up the ice cream. And then they'll pull out a cone, and they basically just like tease the person with the cone and the paddle, like pulling it away. And anyways, look it up on Instagram. I'll try to find one, and we'll drop it.
They didn't get us on that. It's just you wanted ice cream. You just hate it.
But here's the thing: the price that they make you pay for that generic ice cream, essentially. Yeah, it is.
It's not like anything.
It's not. Good. It's nothing special. And then the guy, after Valencia got her ice cream, the guy did another one and tried to hand me another one. And then he asked a crazy price.
Well, they don't post the price, I don't think.
And I was like, no. Mm-hmm. And then I handed him what I essentially wanted to pay him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because they don't post the price.
Because I was like, no, you're not charging me €8. Like, it was like €8. The first price he said, you're not charging me €8 for this ice cream.
This little ice cream, yeah. Actually,
it was nonsense.
And the bummer about it is Sia didn't really like it. No. There was another little boy around her age that thought it was like really funny. And so Sia kind of went over and we're like, we can do it too. And I think after the first one, she was just like, because they put the hands out and you try to get it. And she's just like, I'm over this. Am I getting ice cream or not? Like, no,
she doesn't like to be played with like that at all.
Sometimes she does, but like it's only a couple times that they do kind of like drag it on too much. But yeah, that is a bit of a touristy, scammy type thing because they don't post the prices and then they tell you a ridiculous price. So that'll actually get you if you're not thinking quickly about the conversion, like that's the thing that like for me, like, because they tell you obviously in lira, and if you're not thinking about it, then you could really overpay. So yeah. So that one is annoying. So I think that it's tricky because you kind of find, two sets of people there in the sense that the Turkish are very, very nice. Like when we went to different restaurants or cafes and just got in conversations with them, like just very sweet, accommodating, even giving Sia little, treats or stickers and asking. It was also very nice. Like, is it okay if I give this to her and everything? So you have that set, but then you also have the ones who just are trying to make money. So they're scammy. No, hustler. Hustler in a bad way though. I don't think
in a bad way.
Hustler doesn't have to be a bad term, I don't think, but like scammy.
I'm talking like Cocktails, the Tom Cruise movie. Oh. They're workers and they're hustlers.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Because sometimes we say hustler and I don't think that that's a bad thing. So you're talking about in that way. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Shout out Cocktail.
So I think that, I think that that's a bit of an unfortunate thing that you find in Istanbul, which you don't really get that from the Portuguese in Portugal. No. You get the very kind. I mean, some of the more like scammy things I think are from the non-Portuguese, more so in Lisbon, far less in Porto. Maybe they're trying to sell you like fake sunglasses or something, but they're trying to at least sell something rather than just like scammy.
Yeah, I don't think that I've ever seen one of those guys say like, these are genuine Oakleys or Ray-Bans or whatever.
But, it could make you skeptical about when you travel places. Because, so for example, in Porto, and I think they probably have this in Lisbon, but they're on Santa Catarina, one
Yeah.
of the main pedestrian streets. They've got these people that stand with these like old school cameras, and they take a picture of you, and then they print it out on what looks like old timey newspaper.
Yeah.
And it's just got like I think that they just slot you into where the picture goes, and then it's got different text on there. So it's a really cool like little souvenir thing, and it's actually free. So it's not meant to be like,
Is it free?
Yeah, they just go off of donations. But this is where you
okay.
could be like skeptical. You know, they don't do this and then say, okay, now give me €10 for that.
Yeah.
Whereas there will be other places around Europe.
I donated $5 for that Turkish ice cream.
Yeah, I would think of it as a donation.
It was probably worth 50 cents.
Yeah, but that's the thing too, is like I think stuff like this can make you a little skeptical when you go around different cities. Like someone pushes something in your face and you're like, are we looking for you to like say, okay, that's $10 or something? Or is this like no, this is for you and then whatever you can give? So I find in Portugal, it's a bit more like that.
Yeah.
So like the newspaper thing is like supposed to be kind of a fun thing about the city and just to enjoy a little souvenir. And then it's just donations. It's not like a set price or anything, but you can be quite skeptical of that stuff.
Yeah.
That happens everywhere.
So a parallel that I wanted to draw was if we're okay moving on from the like sociocultural thing is the ability to navigate a street on foot in Istanbul, like Istanbul Old City, because there are parts of the city that are newer and have like better infrastructure, but
wider sidewalks and stuff.
Yeah, but certainly in the old city, it reminded me a lot of Lisbon, really. Like it's
really
got
narrow
these
streets.
Narrow streets, rolling hills, cobblestone.
Yeah.
Like not everything's paved. The sidewalks, not everything's paved. Things are bumpy. You have like
a hole in the ground.
Not just a hole in the ground, but like the steps that lead up to a building that are jutting out. So
watch your feet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or sometimes
Porto has it too, but I think we find it more in Lisbon.
In the old part of Lisbon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Cause we did find very, narrow sidewalks that you'd walk on. And then the cars are very close and the streets are small. So you might have some big truck coming through. I'd have to be like, oh, see a standard, move over a little bit.
Or I would have to watch my head and not get smacked with a mirror.
The mirror. Yeah. Yeah. So there is that in some of in Istanbul. So walking around can definitely be tricky. I would not want to drive. Oh, man. Oh, geez. How about the taxi from the hotel to the airport when we were leaving? He was a bit of a crazy driver. Do you remember that?
I do.
Yeah.
Well,
a little fast. And we're like, okay, we're not that much of a rush.
That's actually something to talk about. So the taxi / Uber situation. You want to explain that?
Yes. So we did an Uber because, when you travel, it's nice to do something like Uber or Bolt or Grab out in Southeast Asia because you know what the price is.
Yeah.
Right. You won't have
you don't have to like say, do you know this address? Do you know where this is? It's like you enter it in.
And they know where they're going
through the app.
And another thing too is you don't have to have cash because maybe like they don't have a card machine or their card machine is broken. So all of that stuff is just done, right? So
air quotes, their card machine is broken.
Yeah, air quotes. So it's just so much easier to use one of these rideshare apps. But a lot of taxis and taxi unions and stuff in different countries are pushing them out or not liking them. So there are issues there. But some are now embracing them in the sense that you will get a taxi. So it looks like a taxi, but you book it through the app. So you still have the security of the app, but now it's like sometimes and I think this might be how it was in Istanbul, only the taxis can actually drive and
that's what it seemed like.
Yeah. So you can't just become like an Uber driver in Istanbul. It's just the licensed taxis who do it. So they come up with these different agreements, I guess. Yeah. Anyway, so we booked it through Uber, hit the taxi. I mean, it's a taxi car, pulls up, all good, but he was driving really fast. And I was like, hey, this is a little too much. It was worse than KL when we talked about that.
But correct me if I'm wrong. The license plate number was actually on the side of the car as well. Mm-hmm. So it was really easy when it pulled up. You could see like, this is my guy because I can see my number here on my phone and then it's written on the side. So you're not having to like peek
do that
around
awkward,
the back or like, is this, It was fine.
Yeah, no, that's actually a really nice feature that they have, because that is tricky, like when a car pulls up or if it's already there when you come out of like the building and you have to awkwardly like walk behind the car
or in front
to make sure that it is the actual number that you have on your phone, whereas there it was on the side, which that's a really nice feature. But yeah, he just was a bit of a crazy driver, so that was a little scary. And what was really funny is we did note like he wasn't wearing his seatbelt.
No,
so crazy driver, not wearing his seatbelt. Yeah. So I would not want to drive in Istanbul.
No, me either.
That would be a little crazy.
Certainly not where we were. I mean, we were staying at the Rixos Pera District Hotel. Pera's pretty downtown, or Pera?
I don't know how to say it.
Pera. Anyways, so we were staying downtown, and it's everything's just very kind of tight. Some one ways, some pedestrian only.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
a lot of people though too. So I mean, if you're driving, you just have to watch out for people that are.
People got to watch out for you.
Yeah, that's true. So that was a bit crazy, but overall, I mean,
it was near Taksim, so that was nice. Like we were, I don't know, 10-minute walk from Taksim, which is the main square there.
No,
and
a must see when you go there.
Yeah.
Or even stay in. I mean, there are hotels and stuff around there.
For sure.
That's a good area too.
And then you get down to where the Beşiktaş Stadium is, which is down by the water being the Bosphorus River.
Yeah.
Which really, you kind of want your hotel to have a Bosphorus view, right?
It is really pretty
sort
river.
Of rooftop bar or something like that.
It's a pretty river.
It's really nice. Yeah. Very, very big, wide river. Very peaceful looking.
Mm-hmm. One thing just to be aware of, there are parts of Istanbul that are quite hilly. So especially if you're staying more in the older part, like by Taksim, and then you go down to the river, it will be like a walk down. So then just keep in mind you have to walk back up. So there are some.
Or get an Uber.
Yeah. So if you're going to walk, you just wear good shoes because, like we said, the crazy sidewalks and then some of the hills. So
yeah. Now, one thing that we intentionally did on this trip is we basically found out the name of a neighborhood that was recommended by Andrew Henderson, and we decided to go check it out. Like, is the hype worth it? Right,
like a good place for expats to live.
So,
like a comfortable place.
I guess it's kind of like the Beverly Hills of Istanbul in a way. I'm not going to say it's Beverly Hills.
No, it's nowhere near that. But I guess it's, if you want to think of like a little more organized, not as chaotic, nicer shops.
It's basically a place that's recommended for people that are more affluent to live. I mean, Istanbul and Turkey in general is not as expensive as living in a place like San Francisco, LA, Miami, New York, London, whatever. But if you kind of want that cosmopolitan lifestyle feel, then this neighborhood, it's got it with luxury stores and whatnot.
Yeah. It was nice.
It was nice. It was nice, tree lined, pretty flat.
Yeah, still some parts that were
sidewalks
a little hilly, but
were definitely wider than where we were staying.
More walkable for sure.
But also a lot of tourists, both domestic and international tourists, walking around, going to the shops. I don't know. There was a good buzz down in that area of the city. Yeah. I'm going to put the name because it escapes me and I probably couldn't pronounce it anyways. I'm going to put the name of this district in the description section so that you can check it out if you're interested. Is it worth a visit if you're a tourist? Like, I
don't know.
If you want to shop, maybe?
Yeah, maybe shop or just see a different side of Istanbul, you know? Yeah, maybe just see a different side, depending on how many days you have. If you only have a few days, then it's probably like, I would say go
hit the Blue Mosque.
Yeah, do those things, the market and everything.
The souk.
Yeah.
Or the Grand Bazaar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bazaar.
We didn't actually go this time.
Not this time, no. Let's see. It would just be chaotic.
We hit up some great playgrounds, though.
Yeah, we did. We found the green spots. Actually, because sometimes on the map it would say there was a playground, and we approached this green spot, and there'd be like no playground there.
Yeah,
it was like gone. So there were green spaces, but then we found did find
like
a few
proper playground,
which was nice. That it was a nice park with like a little not kiosk, but like a little place to get food. It was like
It was more like a restaurant,
little
than
restaurant
a kiosk,
in
like
there
a cafe.
with nice outdoor seating and
Mhm.
cushions and stuff. So and that was actually kind of close to the district you're talking about.
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just south of it.
So that would make sense. That it would have
Yes.
something nice like that.
Yes.
So if you have more than a few days, then this would be an area to check out. But I would say it's definitely a lot more if you're thinking about living in Istanbul. It would be a much more comfortable living area compared to some of the other places we've mentioned. But,
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to get to that point where I'm going to ask, would you expat that? I don't know. Is that this kind of podcast?
I guess so.
But would you want to live in that district? I know that you wouldn't live anywhere else in
No,
Istanbul.
that would
but
honestly
you-
be the only place. If we were living in Istanbul, if like a job or something took us to Istanbul, then I would want to live in that district because it just felt a little more, not casual, but like calmer, I guess, of the buzz of Istanbul. But overall, if I'm saying if I wanted to live in Istanbul, I would say no. I would
know
not.
you'd say that.
I would not expat Istanbul, but that would be the district I would stay in if we needed to. And you?
Are you even interested in going back, like for a visit?
I think when C is older.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so just so she can see some of those things that we didn't take her on like take her to this time around. But we've been so many times. So at this point, I would say if Sia wants to go when she's older, then yes, I would.
Okay.
And what about you?
I would live in that district. I'm obviously not going to try to move from Portugal to that district. No. But like you said, I think if we got job offers, it would be a game changer, and it would be fun. It would be fine.
Yeah.
And I assume that the wages would be quite good.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it'd be you could live there easily.
But you know how I'm feeling about Istanbul at the moment. After this trip, nothing necessarily bad happened. I was definitely shocked by prices. I did not find there to be necessarily great value for money. It was nice getting to eat so much good Turkish food and kind of having that difference. But then that's also off the back of eating a bunch of great food in Southeast Asia. So it's like I didn't necessarily need the break from kind of eating European food or Portuguese food. I didn't need that at that moment, but nonetheless, the food was phenomenal.
It's really good. And you can get any type of cuisine
from
there.
Cheap to pricier.
Yeah.
Not that we had like any fine dining.
But if you live there, like you could have, you could do
Anything.
Turkish food, but you could do all types of cuisine. So that would be easy. But we just, since we were only there a few days, really dug into the Turkish. You know, one thing that is really good about Istanbul is it's got a big airport that services a lot of places, and the location in the world would be very easy to travel.
Shout. That's a good shout.
Easy to travel.
Yeah, I was going to transition us to talking about the kind of the tourism side of Istanbul a little more. But no, I think you bring up an amazing point, which is that the connectivity that you have in Istanbul to other parts of the world is maybe really second to none. Maybe. I think just for me, the main problem is you'd have to live in Istanbul.
Funny.
To be able to take advantage of it.
I mean, I think that, there are a few others, like Doha is a really good hub for location. And
I think Istanbul's better.
You think Istanbul's better?
I think Istanbul's got better connectivity to Europe than Doha.
A little closer, I guess, too.
Doha's great certainly for the Middle Eastern countries and then getting to other parts of Asia.
Yeah.
And then a few major airports in Europe. But
yeah, I guess Istanbul location is
everywhere
good.
In Europe.
And then you get Africa, too.
Yeah.
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 That's true. Yeah. So for location-wise, it's in a really good location. Lots of cool things around there. And obviously, there's a lot more to Turkey than Istanbul. We've really just been digging into Istanbul today just because of that's where we were. But we've been to other places, and there are beautiful parts that will feel a little less Western, I guess you would say. So just thinking about that. But yeah,
we've been to Kushadasi, which if you know the Bible, then that's close to Ephesus, where Ephesians is written. Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of history there.
And then what was the other town we went to in Turkey? Where else we went? There's another city we've been to, and I'm blanking on it. But we've not been to Antalya. That would be, I think, an interesting place to check out, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of places that, I mean, Turkey's so big, so you could definitely do more. So maybe that would be another trip, like maybe obviously flying into Istanbul, but then so a day or two or something, but then also exploring other parts of Turkey that we haven't been to.
Yeah. Izmir.
Rather.
I'd like to check out more of the coast, I think.
Yeah. Well, so Kuşadası was really nice because it's along the water in the south. So it's just a very different feel than to Istanbul.
But there are some amazing spots. We actually at one point had kind of flirted with the idea of moving there as international school teachers, and we just didn't. But we certainly looked into it. A wide variety of places to go, and honestly, there are certainly a significant amount of schools in Istanbul, but a lot of the places that drew us in were the ones that were like smaller beach cities, towns, whatever. Mm-hmm. So I don't know,
a little more tranquil.
Yeah.
Than what you'd find in Istanbul. Istanbul can be a bit chaotic, a bit crazy.
Yeah. But I think for tourism, it's certainly worth visiting a place like Turkey and Istanbul. They're doing a lot in terms of promoting the country and trying to get more tourism there. It's like as much as Saudi's just kind of taking a different approach to tourism promotion, and
they're very new to
throwing money at tourism.
Ooh, I got it.
I think that, Turkey and Istanbul in particular is a little more seasoned. It's a world city. I mean, like there's no two ways about it. It is a world globally recognized cosmopolitan city that is interesting. We haven't touched on language. Turkish, English.
A lot of people spoke enough English that you could just get by. I don't know any Turkish, actually. So I don't know how difficult. I mean, it looks like it could be a difficult language, but I would say that English in Istanbul is very easy to get by with just English. No worries about that.
100%. I think certainly as a tourist, obviously living there.
Yeah, you want to try to learn.
Different ball game.
And depending on where you are in Turkey, if you're in a smaller place, you'll definitely want to know some Turkish.
Yeah.
But yeah. All right, so that really wraps up our trip. We did we chatted about being in KL and in Singapore and now Istanbul, and a little bit of some comparisons with Portugal. But then we've also talked a bit on the main YouTube channel about doing shorter videos on stuff. But that wraps it up.
How do you reflect on kind of this trip and being back here in Portugal? Like, do you have a desire to make another big trip like this or move to another country?
Yeah, I think that it was really nice being back in Southeast Asia, and we reflected on that a bit when we talked about KL and Singapore, specifically Singapore. It was just we really like that Singapore as a country. So it was nice being back, but I am enjoying being in Europe. So I'm definitely enjoying Portugal right now. Forever? No, probably not. But for us, like it's hard for us to think too far in advance. But I'm happy with being in Europe and being in Portugal right now. What about you?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, certainly Turkey isn't a place that I would consider moving to. Southeast Asia, I don't know. There are aspects of life in Southeast Asia that I like. I wouldn't say that I currently miss them at all, actually. But I know that I could live there because I have lived there, and I don't feel like we left because we didn't want to spend more time in the culture. We just wanted to get back to Europe. And certainly where we are now, being in Portugal and especially Porto, it's got the right pace of life for us. So for that, it felt like getting back here felt like coming home.
Yep.
And that's a really nice feeling. I mean, I know that we had that feeling in Singapore, but that feeling also started to wear off a little bit after 4 years. We're past the 4-year threshold here in Portugal and still feeling good about living here. So
about calling it home.
So
all right.
That's that.
So next up, we'll have some more interviews. We'll go back to interviews before we round out the rest of this season.
Yep. Right. Looking forward to rounding out the rest of the season. And then we'll jump back into it in January of 2025.
Yep.
All right.
We still have a few more in this season. So we'll see you next time.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.